if you always wanted to read a light version of Lord of the Rings, but as a more wholesome urban romantasy, let's talk about Vale Born by Lorin Petrazilka. Hey everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Today with a why you should read type review of the Vale Born series by Lorin Petrazilka. If keywords like urban fantasy, portal fantasy, new adult, Tolkien-inspired romance with a more kind of classic fantasy leaning base sound good for you, then let's dive into this review. On a side note, if you enjoy books like this, feel free to hit the subscribe button, because in addition to epic fantasy and science fiction, thrillers and that kind of stuff, romantasy is definitely a subgenre I enjoy. First off, what is the Vale Born series even about? We are following the main character Lily as she is out for a ride. She is looking for her best friend Josie that went missing a couple of days ago, and she has no idea what's going on as she stumbles over a portal that leads her into Alternus, the world of the Fae, and she is being picked up by a very hot Ormer Fae, who brings her home, takes care of her, shows her around, but something kind of feels off. She is getting a lot of mixed messages from the people living in the house. And then, as they're all going out on a trip, she's also being kidnapped by the Ignis Fae, which is the mortal enemy of the Ormer Fae. So she's obviously all in distress, but then she realizes really quickly, yes, this dude is very stubborn and annoying, but somehow something is not what it seems here. And then, as you can imagine, everything changes for Lily, and there are going to be a lot of things for her to figure out. All right, what can you expect from the world itself? So first of all, you have two races. You obviously have humans. That's where kind of the urban fantasy part comes in. It's regular today's world. Lily is from California. She lived on a horse ranch, and she wanted to become a vet, and it's today's life. And then through the portal in Alternus, you have Faes, and they are pretty classic to what you know with Faes, pointy ears, gorgeous, all that kind of stuff. And the world comes with 4 different Fae races that all have different magical abilities. All of them have their history with each other, and there's a lot of great detail just for the face that you can kind of sink your teeth into. And then you have the Vale Born, as the title of the first book and the title of the series says. That's what Lily is. And that's not a spoiler because you learn that pretty early on. Vale Born have special abilities, and what exactly they are you learn throughout the series, so I will not tell you that right away because that would be considered a spoiler. But their magical abilities are really cool, and observing Lily learning more about her magical abilities and training and all that kind of stuff is really interesting. And then you have a lot of other races that I also don't want to tell you too much about, but I promise you there's a lot going on in Alternus. It's not just Fae human. There are a lot of other races, all with their unique magical abilities, and that is one of the things that I really enjoyed about the series, getting to know all of these other races and people and experiencing their rather unique magical abilities, really. And then on top of that, of course, you have a lot of politics, you have a lot of backstabbing, you have a lot of, things that don't seem to be the way you think they are, that kind of stuff. From a storytelling writing perspective, so first and foremost, this is a romance fantasy with both sides being very strong. From the romance side of things, the whole series is actually not a really smutty series. While it is new adult, and especially in book 2 and 3, you have like 2 or 3 smut scenes per book. In general, it is more about the relationship that we are following in the series. So book 1 is very much about the beginning of the relationship, right? The 2 people meeting, flirting, banter, frustration, falling in love, all that good stuff. And then book 2 and 3 are very much about the relationship and the messiness that comes with new relationships, right? Getting to know each other, making compromises, like that kind of stuff. But the fantasy aspect of the series is also very important. This is not like some romantasy, a romance story that just happens to be in a fantasy world. This series actually has a really well fleshed out fantasy world with a lot of aspects, a really solid magic system, And there are a lot of things that fantasy lovers get to see and get to experience. I find the balance between the two genres is really well done. It is a more plot-driven story, most of the time medium-paced, but especially the action scenes are all rather fast-paced. You never have the feeling that you're being bogged down with detail. It's actually paced really well in that you get a lot of action, but then you get enough breathing room in between the action scenes that you can get to know the characters better. And one thing that is very obvious throughout the series is that it is a very personal story to the author. A lot of the elements that she is talking about and that she is like situations she is describing feel like as if she is trying to work through something and just share her experience with us readers. A hint real quick in between, there is a novella as part of the series, so you have 3 main books and then there is a novella. Definitely read that novella between book 1 and 2 because you get a little bit of extra background about a side character that you get to meet in book 1, and you get a little bit of more detail about the storyline in general in the novella before diving into book 2. What is unique about the series and why I think you should read it? So I already talked a little bit about that relationship aspect, and that is definitely something that I find incredibly unique in this series, because usually with romance you have the banter, right, the before kind of part, like how these people are slowly coming together, and then maybe the initial being together part, but you rarely have a story where you actually then get to see how the relationship plays out. And that's the focus of this series. I find like book 2 and 3, as I said earlier, right, they're very heavy on that relationship aspect, and I loved it, and I love that it is so incredibly real. It's not all sunshine and rainbows and googly eyes. They're working through real problems. They're learning to communicate with each other. They're learning that they're from 2 different cultures that are coming together and need to compromise in a lot of situations. And with that comes a lot of things like, and that's where a little bit the Tolkien aspect for me comes in, things like her learning the language of the Fae. Tolkien was a language nerd, right? The big thing that I really appreciate about Lord of the Rings is Tolkien's nerdiness that comes through in the books as he is exploring the language of the elves. And that is very much so the same in the Vale Born series by Lorin Petrazilka. On a lighter level, to be fair, but still you can see that she loves the concept of language and that she loved coming up with Fae-specific words that they had to communicate in. And that's the second aspect that I think makes the series very unique and wholesome to a certain point as well, and also helps then in making this relationship even more so real. And then to top it all off, of course, there are a lot of ups and downs in the entire series, not just from a relationship aspect, but from the general overarching plot, right? The fantasy element as part of that as well. But Lorin Petrazilka created such an incredible, wholesome ending. I was just like, I had such a happiness flowing through me when I finished this series, and I was just like, oh, this is amazing. Like just seeing, you know, all the work that has happened on their fantasy quest, but also on their relationship quest, and how it all comes together, and how her wishes have been kind of woven into this ending, like the main character's wishes have been woven into this ending. Oh, perfection. Perfection. I highly recommend this book for, if you're already a Romantasy lover, absolutely go for this book. This adds such a great, unique aspect to the Romantasy genre. I think it's a fantastic series that can be read really fast. It's a great popcorn read. All books are around the 300-page lengths. It's really easy to get into. It's really easy to read through. If you're a Romantasy fan, this should be a must-read series on your list. Also, if you want more grown-up main characters without all that teenage angst, this series is also perfect for you. All right, I hope my review got you excited to take a look at Vale Born by Lorin Petrazilka. If you need a little bit more to make a decision, go check out the interview that I've done with the author where we talk a little bit more about the series, her inspiration, her experience writing, and all that kind of fun stuff. And then don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And I hope I see you soon with another video on my channel. Till then, have an amazing rest of your day. Bye!